Good morning, everybody, and welcome back once again to Maximus the Fourth. What I have here, you guys left, is an original Pepsi Blue from the States that came out in 2002 and was discontinued in 2004. And then to your guys' right is a variant of Pepsi Blue, which is probably the rarest Pepsi Blue on Earth, Pepsi Wiwichu. The title of today's video is going to be, what is actually the difference between original Pepsi Blue and Pepsi Wiwichu? Now, in today's video, I'm going to scan the ingredients of both, and there's going to be two things that I'm going to achieve. One, I'm going to unlock the ingredients, the ever so mysterious ingredients that is in Pepsi Wiwichu. And because this soda was only to ever be released in Mexico in 2009 during the holidays, it's no shock that there is no clear picture anywhere on the internet that shows the ingredients, which luckily I do have them here on this bottle. Now, there's very little that's been known about Pepsi Wiwichu other than a few Google images that you can find on the internet. Wiwichu is actually a play on words for "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," and then those characters on the back are the little Wiwichu characters themselves, and it's just basically a sloppy way to say "We wish you a Merry Christmas." When they made this soda, they wanted to spell it out exactly how it sounded, and other than a Reddit post that was left behind with some comments, it's been described to taste like gummy candies. So let's go ahead and dig in to the ingredients and see what's going on. And as a lot of you might remember, the original Pepsi Blue is a berry cola fusion that tastes like blue raspberries and maybe even blueberries as well, with an aftertaste of cotton candy. And today we are going to find out exactly why this one tastes like the gummies and this one tastes like what it does. So let's dig in. So first of all, to unlock the ever so mysterious ingredients in Pepsi Wiwichu, because it was only ever released in Mexico, the ingredients are in Spanish. So what I did is I took my phone and scanned the ingredients using Google Lens to translate them from Spanish into English, and this is what it came out. Pepsi Wiwichu officially reads: carbonated water, sugars, phosphoric acid, Pepsi Blue concentrate, citric acid, sodium citrate, potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate, and then Brilliant Blue FCF and Allura Red. Next up, original Pepsi Blue reads: carbonated water, high fructose corn syrup and or sugars, citric acid, natural and artificial flavors, phosphoric acid, potassium citrate, potassium benzoate, and potassium sorbate, which both preserves the freshness, caffeine, gum-arabic, ascorbic acid, and calcium disodium EDTA to protect the flavor, and then blue number 1 and red number 40. Now, let's compare them side by side and see exactly the differences that there are. They're very, very similar, but they are a bit different. So starting first with Original Pepsi Blue, carbonated water. Pepsi Wiwichu, carbonated water. Original Pepsi Blue, sugars. Original Pepsi Blue, high fructose corn syrup. Pepsi Wiwichu, sugars. And then the next two ingredients that we're going to be scanning is number 3 and 5, which sounds weird, but you guys are very quickly going to understand why I'm going to take this order of sequence. Original Pepsi Blue, citric acid. Original Pepsi Blue, phosphoric acid. And then Pepsi Wiwichu, phosphoric acid. And then Pepsi Wiwichu, citric acid. So as you can clearly see, they switched the citric acid from number 3 from original Pepsi Blue and moved it to number 5 in Pepsi Wiwichu. And then they switched phosphoric acid from number 5 in original Pepsi Blue and moved to number 3 in Pepsi Wiwichu. So to put matters very simply, there is simply just more phosphoric acid in Pepsi Wiwichu than Pepsi Blue, and there is less citric acid in Pepsi Wiwichu than Pepsi Blue. And then in between number 3 and 5, for original Pepsi Blue, there is natural and artificial flavors. And then in Pepsi Wiwichu, there's Pepsi Blue concentrate, which we'll never know exactly what the Pepsi Blue concentrate is supposed to be. But in theory, you got to think that over in Mexico, they're like, okay, we might want to use natural and artificial flavors too, but we're just going to call it a completely different name, keep ourselves completely out of trouble, and we'll just call it Pepsi Blue concentrate and call it a day. Now the next series of ingredients in both Pepsi Blue and Pepsi Wiwichu at 6, 7, and 8 are the preservatives. And in original Pepsi Blue, there's potassium citrate, potassium benzoate, and potassium sorbate. All 3 of those are acting as preservatives. And then in Pepsi Wiwichu, there is sodium citrate, potassium sorbate, and sodium benzoate. So they chose 3 completely different preservatives for Pepsi Wiwichu, and neither of any of those 3 that they chose was in the original Pepsi Blue. So they were probably thinking, well, there's a handful of preservatives that we can use. We're just going to choose 3 at random draw and call it a day. We're going to be extra safe here. And then next up, in original Pepsi Blue, there is caffeine, and there is no caffeine in Pepsi Wiwichu, so that would be the second major difference in my opinion. And then there's a gum arabic in original Pepsi Blue, no gum arabic in Pepsi Wiwichu. In gum arabic, it's not a super vital ingredient. It's kind of a little bit confusing what it does exactly, but to my personal understanding, I think it just might help with the texture a little bit. That's the only thing that could make sense to me. If you have a decarbonated soda and there's no sugar in it, the gum arabic, maybe it'll just help with the texture a little bit to where it doesn't just feel exactly like water. And then there's ascorbic acid and calcium to sodium EDTA, which both are to protect the flavor in original Pepsi Blue. And in Pepsi Wiwichu, they decided to skimp out on the flavor protectors altogether because they're like, well, it's a limited edition. It's going to be discontinued very, very soon, and we don't need flavor protectors, whatever. We're just going to skip this part and call it good. And then, in original Pepsi Blue, there is blue number 1 and red number 40 for the food colorings. And then it appears to be that the same two are also in here, but they decided to call it Brilliant Blue, FCF, and Allura Red. So now that we've compared these ingredients side by side, what exactly is the differences in these two that gave the Pepsi Wiwichu those gummy candy tastes, as opposed to the Berry Cola Fusion with an aftertaste of cotton candy? Well, first of all, at number 2, Pepsi Blue is made with high fructose corn syrup. Pepsi Wiwichu is made with sugars. Pepsi Blue ingredient number 3 has citric acid, and then they put the citric acid from number 3 to number 5 in Wiwichu. And then Pepsi Blue has citric acid at phosphoric acid at number 5, and then Pepsi Wiwichu, phosphoric acid at number 3. So they flip-flopped those, and then they chose 3 different preservatives for each of them. There's no caffeine in Wiwichu. There is caffeine in Blue. There's gum-arabic in Blue. No gum-arabic in Wiwichu. And then there's calcium to sodium EDTA and ascorbic acid in Pepsi Blue. There is none in Pepsi Wiwichu. And then they both pretty much have blue number 1 and red number 40. So the most significant differences, in my opinion, is that this one's made with real sugar and this one's not. And then this one is decaffeinated and this one does have caffeine. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the deep dive ingredient scan on Pepsi Blue and Pepsi Wiwichu. I hope that you guys have learned something new, something that the world has never seen before in the ingredients for Pepsi Wiwichu. After all, it is one of the rarest flavors of Pepsi that's ever come out of all time. And with that said, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.